what I...
Habbeger, and I know them from Akron Mennonite Church, where we attend, and I find their story of World War II particularly interesting because it was all in Europe, unlike some other stories of that time period. Where were you born?
I was born in West Prussia in Germany in 1925.
That would have been before the war, so it wouldn't have been Poland at that time. So you would have spoken German at home.
That's right. And in school.
Her family was originally Mennonites or Anabaptists.
Yes. So were my grandparents, both sides.
Where you attended a church there? Is that all in German?
Our congregation was Teensdorf, Mennonitengemeinde.
Is that like a little village? Or?
A small village.
Now, you said Western Prussia?
In West Prussia.
So that would have been, where exactly around here would that be?
It would be close to Gdansk.
Within traveling distance?
Oh, yes.
So what did your father do?
We lived on a farm, and my father did farming.
Was that your own farm, or was...
We owned the farm.
Did you do any work around there? On the farm?
In summer, during vacation, we helped on the farm. We helped to bring in the grain, and we helped in the garden, pick apples.
Would have that been harder work than it would be now, since you might not have had all the technological advance that they do now?
Well, we did not have tractors, and we worked with horses. And we were used to work in the garden.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have one older sister and two younger brothers.
And are they alive still?
Yes, my siblings all live, and they live all around here, around Akron.
And you, Eric, where were you born?
I was born in Switzerland,
Whereabouts is
in
Switzerland?
the Jura Mountains. It's in the northwest of Switzerland.
Where would that be?
Would be in that area here.
So it would have been a little bit near France.
It was not very far from France, about maybe 10 miles.
And then did you speak Schweizerdeutsch?
We spoke Schweizerdeutsch at home, yes. And I went to a French-speaking school.
So do you still speak French, or?
Un petit peu. That means a little.
What did you speak at home then?
We spoke the Swiss dialect at home because our services in the Anabaptist churches were in German. Everything was
German.
the reading was in High German, but the sermon was in the Swiss dialect. Unless it was a guest speaker from Germany, then it would all be in High German.
Well, what kind of surroundings did you grow up on there?
I grew up on a farm, and we helped do the chores on the farm, a small farm, about 25 acres.
Was that in the mountains at all, or
Was it, pardon me?
was it in the mountains? Or?
It was in the Jura Mountains. They are not the Alps, they're not as high. I think the highest peak in the area is about 1,600 meters.
So it was sort of hilly. And
It was hilly, yes. Yes.
yeah, there's a joke about how the Swiss cows have two legs that are shorter than the others. They can stand on the hill without falling over.
Yeah.
What was it, a dairy farm, or?
It was mainly dairy, yes. Of course, that's not a very large farm, and the weather was more suitable for dairy than for grain, raising, because it's a short season, growing season.
Then how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I have 2 sisters and 3 brothers, and they are all living in Switzerland.
Do you ever go back to visit them?
We have been back a few times. I seen them the last time in 89, in the fall of 89, just briefly.
So, what year were you born?
I was born in 1925.
So, do you remember when World War II, the beginning of World War II?
Yes, I do remember. Of course, we didn't have all the communications like we have today. My parents didn't even have a radio at that time, so you relied either on hearsay or reading the paper. And the paper was not a daily either; it was just a weekly.
Were the people of your area scared at all of German advance into Switzerland, or?
Well, there was a period in May 1940 when it was quite tense, and that's the time when the Germans invaded France and going through Belgium, Holland and Belgium, and the thought was that they would come through Switzerland, to attack from two sides. And I remember them building blockades on the road, halfway they closed the roads to prevent tanks from being able to travel. And during that period was a very tense. I think it was around the 10th of May, 1940. But then things went very fast through Belgium, and the Germans never came through Switzerland.
Switzerland has been famous for their bomb shelters. Did you have them at that time, or was that more of a...
There were only a few bomb shelters, probably like the United States has bomb shelters also, but in that sense. But this has changed radically with the atom bomb. They have to build shelters now if they build a new house.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't all Swiss homes have to have some sort of military protection, like a gun?
Well, my understanding is that only new buildings have the. Well, it's probably already 30 years old, I would think, the law. I'm not quite sure when they...
That wasn't a World War II...
It was not then, no. It was not in existence then. There were just shelters like, for regular bomb attacks, I suppose, for that type of shelter. That came after the atomic explosion.
You would have remembered the beginnings of World War II also. You were in Germany at the time, so do you remember Nazi troops, or do you have any Jewish friends in the area, or was you?
No, not in rural areas. The Jews lived in town and had the stores. I remember them from
more business people.
Business people, and big stores.
Do you remember like going into Jewish stores?
Yes, I do remember. And then in 1933, all of a sudden, these Jews disappeared.
You had no idea where
I have no idea. I was 14 at that time, and it was in a way scary.
So, did people know, or
yes, I think my parents knew, and that they had disappeared or
sort of mysteriously?
Yeah, but it was not talked about openly.
Was that because of government oppression, or just because of people being sort of scared about it?
Well, it was not acceptable to support Jews and
sort of a
talk
society
about.
thing. Did you ever go to any movies or anything?
No.
So you wouldn't have seen any of the propaganda films or anything?
No. Not at that time.
Did you have a radio?
We had a radio.
Well, now, is that a shortwave radio or just a regular radio? You couldn't get BBC, could you?
Oh, no. Just what?
Well, I don't know if you could get England or not, I would think. I know in Switzerland we could get foreign broadcasts, from France or Germany. I don't know just how far. But I don't think it was a shortwave. It probably was just a regular.
I do not remember any other nationalities.
So they didn't come around and take away your radio?
No.
But did you ever have a paper or anything, or would a German paper or anything?
Newspaper?
Yeah.
Yes, we had papers.
Now, were they sort of, could you tell that they were censored in a way, or were they just these regular papers?
I do not remember, Reuben. I was 14, 13, and all I remember that we lived a little bit in fear of, do not talk about Jews, and if you do, there were concentration camps. But I didn't know where they were. That's the tactic they used.
Well,
Keep quiet.
at the time, you would have been in about 7th or 8th grade.
Yeah.
Then, during the war, did you ever experience any troops coming through your town, or any bombing or anything? Any of the war itself?
No, not where we lived, but in the air raids from England and U.S. troops on German cities. We, as a farm community, had to take in bombed out families.
From Gdansk?
No,
From Danzig?
from Hamburg, that's from the west.
Mm-hmm.
They would come and live with us because they had lost everything.
Now let's get some of these pictures here of your farm. You want to tell us a little bit about this picture here?
Well, this was a farmhouse we lived in. The barn was next to it, all under one roof.
Yeah, that was an older style of farmhouse then.
Yes. And
Did you have a big house to house these people, or was it
yes, it was a roomy, and
so you weren't overcrowded or anything?
no, we only had one family at the time.
Let's see this picture of your family here that I.
Here, that's my family.
Now, which one are you here?
The smaller one.
The one in the middle?
Yeah.
So, then you were the youngest.
No, the two brothers were younger.
Oh, okay, yeah, that one there.
Mm-hmm.
Then, as the Soviet troops advanced into Germany, here Danzig isn't too far from what's now Soviet Union. Now, of course, Germany had expanded into the Soviet Union some. Do you remember retreating German troops or Soviet troops at all?
We did not see retreating German troops until 1945, when we had to flee.
So you kind of fled with the troops?
No, we before the troops. But in January 1945, we had German troops digging in on our farms and in the neighboring village.
So trenches and stuff?
Yes. And so we had to help with our horses. They came at night, and then they stayed till end of January, till we had to leave, the troops. And that's the only time we heard shooting and rockets flying. And we did not see Russian troops. We only heard about how rough and
So
brutal they were.
Now let's kind of skip back a little. Do you remember any rationing? Or food shortages?
Oh, yes. Not so much food shortage for us on the farm, but rationing, I think, for 3-4 years.
So the rationing wouldn't be on, it'd be on things that you couldn't grow yourself there on the farm.
That's right. We had to deliver farm-raised goods like eggs and potatoes and even pigs. So that all was rationed.
But you weren't really hungry or anything?
No, we were not hungry, not at that time. But in the cities, I think it was very scarce for many people.
So you're almost fortunate in a way to be on a farm?
Yes. I remember my mother would give some eggs or some milk to an older lady in the city, and we had to deliver that, and it was scary. They said if police would come and find these, that was not allowed.
Now in school, as the Nazis sort of took power during the war, did you ever have to memorize any of these little Erich and Folk and a few other things?
Oh, yes.
So that was really
That was the change
into your school system.
Yes, that came right after 1933, when Hitler became Führer. Then already, and we had to greet the teacher with raised hand and
With the Heil Hitler thing.
Heil Hitler. Yes, and you did not dare to be different or do something else. That what this underlying fear was there.
Do you remember any Mennonite drafting Mennonites into the military?
Oh yes. My father also was drafted. All men, without exception, had to serve.
But was he accepted? Was there an exception in his case because of his farm?
For a while, he had to be in the army, and then he became a release because to work on the farm. But in 1944, everyone was drafted, all men.
That would have been getting towards the end of the war there. As I recall, they were really the draft ages were really getting pretty wide.
Very young. That was, yes, in winter of 1944 and 45, I think, down to 15-year-old and 65-year-old men. They all had to report and did not return.
Was that a picture of your father in uniform there? There was a man in there with a uniform
Yes.
on.
Yes.
Did he survive the war?
Yes, my father was then yeah. Mm-hmm. My father was he survived. He was a prisoner of war.
Which side is he?
France. In France.
So he would have been treated all right then. Because German troops said if you're going to get captured by the enemy, get captured by the Allies. The Soviets were so rough with them.
Yeah.
So,
See, those that were captured by the Russians were transported to Siberia.
most of them probably never seen again before.
Right. Many did not come back, or most of them. But we were reunited with my father in I think in 1946 through the Red Cross, Suchdienst.
Do you remember any other Mennonites that were drafted? Were they? Is there any sort of conscientious objection at that time, or is that sort of?
I do not remember.
No. Did you remember any drafting or anything?
Well, Switzerland has a different setup
Yeah.
as far as the military is concerned. Every able-bodied man is supposed to serve. And it's more a militia type of army where you take a basic camp for 4 months, and then you take your uniform home, your whole gear you take home, and then you go for 7 years or so, and you do a repeater course, a 3-week repeater course.
So that you're always prepared.
And that you would always prepare. If you are among in the infantry, for example, they took their guns home, and they took several rounds of ammunition home. So you have to trust your people if you give them ammunition to take home, right?
Yeah.
But they were also accountable for it. When they returned, they had to show all their ammunition. The only exception that Switzerland had for conscientious objector was to join the medics. You still were in the army, but you did not bear arms. I mean, you were there to help in case you were needed.
Was your father drafted?
My father was in the service, yes.
Did he just go as a regular person, or was he a medic?
He was a medic.
Did he ever? Of course, he wouldn't have seen any action, but did he ever get to the border at all? Or?
I don't think that he got near the border. In fact, I was drafted in '44 and did my basic in '44 in the summer, basic training, and then I was close to the French border in active duty, and from there we could hear the cannon shooting, over in France. That's at the time when the Allies were moving towards Germany in November, December of 1944.
So there was no real threat then at all?
There was no real threat. The only thing was we had a lot of people, refugees coming in, civilians. And even in 1940, we had a tremendous influx of French troops and Polish troops, and we had all kind of internees in Switzerland.
I read about Jews who would try and escape to Switzerland. Do you remember any coming in?
I don't remember. There were Jews around, but we were not really aware of, and I don't think that in our town that they were really. I don't know if there were any Jews or not. I cannot tell you.
So you were kind of distant from the city then?
We were distant from the city. That's right.
Did you experience any rationing?
We had rationing quite early in the war and all through the war for just about everything that you can think of. I mean, from eating, and to clothing, to shoes, to you had rationing for bicycle tires.
I guess it was in Holland where they were, after their tires were just totally useless, they were riding on the rims. You probably never got
I never did, but you double your tire some places, and you got that bump effect, every time the wheel went around.
I guess on the Swiss hills that could get pretty annoying. Right?
It is annoying, yes.
Now, towards the end of the war, if you were in the military, then you probably would have not really could have gone home or something. You probably weren't a refugee or anything. Right?
No, I was not. I was in my homeland, and in fact, we were dismissed then in December sometime, and I did not return to active duty anymore after that. I took a few repeater courses after that, but that was all.
Did you go home then? And
Then I went home, yes.
how long were you there until you moved?
Until we moved here to,
Yeah.
well, that was 8 years away, I guess, from moving to America.
So during those 8 years, did you live on the farm?
I did different things. I had learned the trade of cheese making, actually, and I worked in dairies, and you know where they process the milk. Then I worked some in factories because there was a big demand for help in factories. But I think you were an unskilled worker. Switzerland has an apprenticeship program where you are an apprentice 3 or 4 years, and then you get better wages. If you're an unskilled labor, you just do the easier things, but you never get the money that the professional get.
Now you talked about meeting your father through the Red Cross. Was that in Switzerland? Swiss Red Cross? Or?
No, this was the German Red Cross. All the refugees could send in their new address and the address from West Prussia, and through the Red Cross they would match people, families, and that's how we found him.
So when you had no idea where he was when you were
No
fleeing?
idea if he was alive or.
So then where did you go to the Red Cross? Where was that?
By mail.
But where were you?
We were in West Germany. We were very close to Checkpoint Charlie.
So you're in Berlin somewhere around that area?
You were in the British
not
zone.
Not really.
Were you not?
Yeah.
So where were you staying in
On a farm. You got a room or two
with some other family?
with the owner of the farm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that was just you and your brothers and sisters and your mother at the time?
My mother, my sister and one brother. The younger brother was, at that time we didn't know where he was because with his teacher and the whole class of 30 boys, they were moved to the west before we left home, so we didn't know where he was.
You know where he is now?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we found him through the Red Cross also. He was in the Russian zone.
was he lost or was he?
No, he was not lost. He lived with a family.
And was he looking
You know,
for you?
he was looking for us, and we were looking for him, and through the Red Cross, we found him. You know, he was with the teacher and the class, and before the Russians came that day, before the Russian army, each of the boys went quick to a house and said, "Can I stay with you?" And so he stayed with his family.
Well, why would they do that? What was it?
Oh, you didn't want that the Russians would find 30 young men of 14 years.
Otherwise they'd take him and use him for.
Yeah. Probably send them to
That's
Siberia.
supposedly what happened to Peter von Dunn in the Anne Frank story. He's taken by Russian troops and never seen again.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned your mother not being with you there.
Yeah, my mother was we were with our mother.
So then who was missing?
The father and the younger brother.
That was it. Okay. And where was your father staying? How'd you find him? Where was he?
he was in a prisoner of war camp. And then he, in France. And then he was released to a family. And he helped there on the farm. He did the farming for these woman. I think her husband never returned. And from there he got in contact to Red Cross.
Was there still some anarchy there in Europe after the war, or was it pretty well calmed down?
What shall I say? Things were broken down, factories, postal service, schools. It took a while to get back.
So it pretty much the infrastructure was pretty well broken down, but it wasn't like total anarchy like the Soviet Union was.
No.
But there was
Food rationing.
scarcity.
Yeah. And to help that every person had to work in the fields to bring food to the cities. And so we have to work in the fields for 3 years. And if you worked, then you became ration cards.
As payment for your work.
Yeah.
How did you meet Erich then?
Let me see. See, then MCC had what did they send? Food?
What did it relief work?
Relief work. MCC had relief workers in Germany. They helped to build up houses for refugees. And I helped in a unit in Asperkamp where these PAX boys or the young men from USA came. And that's where Erich also came to help and help to volunteer.
In the British thing there.
That was American, so Asperkamp. I think Asperkamp was American.
Were there a lot of bombed out houses in that area?
Yes, there were some.
But there were still houses that you could live in pretty well.
Where the U.S.
Yeah.
There were. It was not a city, not even a big village. They lived in ammunition.
It was an ammunition depot, and it was hidden in the woods, actually.
So it wasn't even a
It was not a town.
No.
It was a military place.
So installment.
And I think they were also manufacturing gases in that. And the British were going to explode everything. And in fact, they dismantled this factory. But I think the Swedish church intervened and said, why destroy those
barracks?
Those barracks, and let's use them for refugees too, so they can live in there.
They were about as long as these house barracks, just empty, just shelves with big doors. And that's what these U.S. Volunteers did.
Well, that's where they stayed, but then they helped build homes for refugees from the east that had settled in the area or were trying to be established. Today, Asperkamp is, I don't know, 30,000?
75,000 in when were we there? 79?
In 76 we were there.
Um,
No, 79, you're right.
Is basically refugees like Poles and Russians and...
Not really. Mostly Germans that came from the east, from West Prussia, and
And then there was a whole influx of Umsiedler, that came out of Russia in recent years.
That was
The
and,
Russian Mennonites.
and there were also some Mennonites returning from Paraguay, went back to Germany and settled there. But it's not strictly Mennonite. I mean, there are other people, affiliation, with a different church affiliation.
What made you want to move to America?
Well, maybe just too many people in Germany, all the refugees and all. It was very hard to start new and to be in a Mennonite community.
Since there really weren't, I guess it would be easier for people who were originally from West Germany to settle there, go back to their original homes.
Yeah. I think since it looked like there would not be a chance for them to return to West Prussia, it became, when this became apparent, then the moving was not quite as difficult anymore.
So there's a lot of people in the area there because of fleeing from the Soviet troops, not to get stuck in East Europe. Is that what made it so crowded there?
Yes.
It looked hopeless in those years after the war. Really, it was difficult, and I guess her father was concerned about the family and their future. Of course, later on they could have used the people. They got all those other foreign workers to come there, but that came later.
Is mainly French and German. Did you sense any division of loyalties there between the French and the German-speaking people?
Well, there was a certain rivalry going on. Of course, there are more German. There are about 70% speak German, only about 20% speak French. And of course, the French would side more with the Allies, and the Germans, maybe at one point, sided more with the Germans. So I think as the war went on, that feeling changed too, though you always have some radicals that stay with either of the sides or change sides,
But you probably would have been more for the French than
Well,
years before.
yes, we really didn't know all the things that we know today, you see, and at that time,
Germany.
I remember my father always said, well, Hitler did some good, he created work when he came on the scene. Of course, the end product was war and devastation in the country, but at the time it looked like it was worthwhile, creating the road network that they built during those years.
Prime Minister Kohl of Germany said that Germany will not claim any Polish land that was once German. What do you think of that?
Yeah, this now, since we immigrated, this is our home now, and I even don't want to go and visit.
So you don't want to visit Prussia?
No. And I think you only can start over 2-3 times, not so
So it's sort of part of your past now.
it's of the past, yes. And especially my brother visited in West Prussia, which is Poland now, last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks very hopeless and very downtrodden and
Was that experience sort of depressing for him, or?
I think so. It probably was worse than we had heard. Very no progress. And the fields were all in weeds. So, and no buildings were gone. So that's how it came.
Well, thank you for giving me some time to talk about this. And
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Are you sitting on the croissant?
That was my fifth one.
You sitting on the croissant? You sitting on the croissant? What's this? What's this? What's this? You're gonna have to eat this croissant.
Oh, no.
You're gonna have to eat it. I'm sorry.
Michael.
What?
Give me my goggles.
Come on, man. It's 8:30. We gotta go. Coffee?
No, thanks. Do you like what you do, Michael?
What, being Steve's slave? I love it. I live for it. It's everything I ever dreamed of. Do I like what I do? I make a lot of money. I travel. I stay in places like this. You know what I did before I was Steve's slave? I ran my old man's kosher butcher shop on Flatbush Avenue. That's in Brooklyn. I mean, look at me. You're not trying to tell me this is all just a dream, are you?
Ah. Is he telling you the story of his life? Huh? The kosher butcher shop? The girl from Ottawa?
No, he didn't tell me about the girl from Ottawa.
Ah. Hey, this guy hates my guts. He steals my shoes, buries them in weird places.
Stevie.
He's got a hold on me.
Let's go.
He knows too much.
Come on.
He knows how to moon moves, this guy.
Let's go.
Michael, I'm barefoot. Where are my shoes?
We'll buy some.
Oh, okay.
Il n'a pas le droit de faire ça, il n'a pas le droit.
Je croyais que vous étiez un couple libre.
Ouais, c'est ça. Sauf qu'en ce moment, je suis très couple et qu'elle est très libre.
Ça change, non?
Ça change, ouais. Madame, s'il vous plaît. Je t'attends.
Non, non, tu es gentil. J'en ai pour un bon moment. Au revoir.